Hey, my friends, you ever think about how the United States of America is going to be like in 10, 15, 20 years? I don't think about it a lot, but I do have concerns about what the country is shaping into. There's various ideologies that are growing at a grassroots level that's changing the norms within society. And there's a growing movement of socialism. There's this growing movement that we need bigger government, that we need government to protect us and to micromanage us, to tell us how to live our lives, to give us all the answers. And that really is not the best way to go. This whole ideology has been tried all throughout history, and it's always failed. And a lot of people have died in those experiments, these social experiments of how to govern. Because what always happens is all the power or the majority of power goes to just a few people, maybe even one person. And, well, there's a massive problem with the citizens because the citizens become slaves to the government. Down the road, I do believe that we're going to eventually come into another civil war. It's almost like with humans, we have cycles. And we're getting to that point where there's enough of a divide in our country that the divide is starting to break off. And at some time in the future, these break-off points, mainly these two parts, are going to collide back into each other. When they do, it's going to be violent. That's what I predict. Because we've seen it in the past, not just with other countries, but even within our own country. Look at the Civil War. So, what can we do about this? Well, don't support these idiots in government, these lawmakers. Don't buy things from corporations that are anti-American, that are socialist, like Walmart, and a host of others. I'm not getting into all those details. You can look into it yourself. I have videos on this. But don't support and buy things from people that are your enemy. And do the best that you can to become more aware of what's going on and to prepare for the future, to prepare for this civil war. And I'm not saying it's guaranteed in our lifetime, but it sure feels like it's down the road. It could be 5, 10, 20 years from now. Who knows? I'm not going to sit here and try to predict that. But man, I just know that things happen in cycles. And it's just like world wars. We're probably coming up in the next so many years, whatever that's going to be, of another world war. These things happen. I sure hope it doesn't happen, but it continues to happen. Just like there's a lot of people that get oppressed by government, and then the government has to be taken over, sometimes by an outside source, to free the people. I hope that America is not like that. I hope America doesn't, oppress their people to the point that we have to rise up and shed a bunch of blood to get some of our freedoms back. America is becoming a lot less free, people. And I know that my subscribers know this. I'm just preaching to the choir. But there are times that there are new subscribers or people from the outside that kind of hit and find this video, or find my channel, I should say. They may not fully understand this. We are so much less free than we were 10, 20 years ago. And so when you think about 5, 10, 15 years from now, at the rate we're going, our society is going to look so different. You may not even recognize America, even in just a few years. So this is concerning, very concerning for me and the future Americans that are just being born or will be born, right? Those future generations are coming into a very volatile state. We have a media. I mean, good Lord. The mainstream media has clearly their own agenda. I mean, you can see who they support and who they don't. You can see how Hollywood produces content of entertainment. They'll use all types of firearms and all kinds of murder and death and violence. They'll sell you that. But when it comes to law-abiding citizens having a means to protect themselves from criminals, oh, that you can't do that. You can't have that. That's wrong. What? You know, I have a lot of subscribers from the United Kingdom, and I cannot tell you how many emails that I've gotten over the years. Very sad emails. Some of them are very desperate emails, like, you know, what can I do? You know, we don't have firearms. They're not available. And, you know, I've been broken into several times. I fear for my life. But if I fight back, it's against the law. You know, self-defense is against the law. And there are so many people. There's actually a lot of channels, too, that actually talk about how to use common everyday items. You know, those people who live in the UK, common everyday items for self-defense, even though at the time they would deny that they're self-defense items. Then people carry certain types of flashlights, rolled up newspapers, certain types of umbrellas that are stronger than others. There's a whole list of amazing things that people, being very creative as humans are, have come up with for self-preservation, because the government is anti-self-defense. I mean, what is that all about? That's really twisted. And I see some of our states here in America following suit. It's almost like, oh, the citizens shouldn't have the right to, you know, fight for their life or nothing. No, we can't allow that. What? How can you be a free person if you're not even allowed to protect your own life? So this is where we're going. We're going down a dark alley. I mean, it's a dark alley full of evil. And unless we start to reverse some of this, we're just becoming more and more a slave to the government. The government is supposed to serve us, the freaking people. And I mean, I almost want to like start cursing about this. And I don't curse, but I get so upset about this shit. It's like, what the hell has happened in the last so many decades? Something flipped real fast. And a lot of people didn't recognize it, right? It just happened. And all of a sudden, we serve the government, apparently. And the government doesn't serve us. And what's up with all these corporations getting in with the governments? You know, local government, state government, federal government, different governments making these various contracts. And it's real sketchy. And so it's almost like whatever the big government wants, corporations kind of follow suit. Or maybe it's the corporations influence government with these socialist ideologies. And it's all about taking more of our freedom. It's like there's a constant onslaught of attack on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. It's really bizarre. But it's been going on. And there's a lot of books that I read, and it seems like that socialism here in America kind of became a little bit more recognized in the 40s. But who knows how far it goes back. It's just more recognized historically that somewhere in the 40s, it started popping up, you know, as an actual movement or group. Very small, though. And there's a term called socialist creep. A socialist creep is a slow movement that builds over time. And they've been doing that since the 40s, or at least from the 40s. And now, though, in the last 10 years, socialism has been they've been kind of like pushing the word democratic socialism together to make it easier as a transition. But that's been more prominent. And now it's very mainstream. Oh, you know, socialism, it's not a bad thing. What? What? That's very un-American. That's not the American way of life. Unbelievable. And people don't even know what this stuff means. They just see it, you know, people talking about it, you know, people that are, you know, not very threatening, talk about being a democratic socialist. And they're like, oh, well, I could probably be one of those. They don't look that bad of a person. But the movement is toxic. The movement is all about big government and enslaving the people, taking freedoms from the people, micromanaging the people. Why would you choose for a government to tell you how to live your life? And that's what this is all about. It's about control over you and how you can do things. There isn't any kind of area for freedom in a full-on socialist society. And that just leads to a more Marxist society. And so whenever you get into like full-blown communism, you're absolutely a slave. There's no question about it. You are not important. It's only about the integrity of the state, you know, the government. It's all about the government, and you're just a pawn. And whatever you can do to help it, that's what you should do, according to them. Instead of the government serving you, because if you're free, that's what the government does. Because you have control over what goes on in the government. But anymore, though, it's not that way. Even in the U.S., it just really seems like in most governments, you still have some local governments that serve the people. And there are some states that actually, for the most part, they do the right thing when they talk about like governance and lawmaking. There's definitely some good states out there still. But there's becoming more and more states and more within the federal government of tyranny and just fiat control. Like, for example, Trump just being able to go, I guess, what was it, the ATF, I believe, or something like that, or the Justice Department, or whoever many people he had to go through to change the interpretation, just to change the interpretation of some of the gun laws so that they can include a ban on the bump fire stock on rifles. Now, I personally don't even care to own a bump fire stock, or system. But it shouldn't be illegal. It actually was completely legal. The ATF ruled, I think, at least 3 times that it was, because people challenged it, and it was considered completely legal. But what you have is a lot of people in government, and even the Supreme Court is what I'm really concerned about, that it's not so much that they're making new laws, it's how they interpret the laws on the books. That's really scary. They say, well, it also includes this now. And just by fiat and circumventing our lawmakers, circumventing the populace being able to speak about and push back and say, no, there's a lot of this reinterpreting what our freedoms are. And this is by far one of the biggest tyrannies that are, at the moment going on. And then, of course, you have a lot of the norms, which have been evil for a long time. I mean, we know that abortion is evil, but it continues to go on. So that's been going on for a long time, and that hasn't been dealt with. The population just kind of pretends that it's not there. But you kind of wonder, like, okay, how long can a society really even sustain themselves if it's okay to just kill their children? And that's what you have over all this time is a buildup of evil. And you have a buildup of this moral dilemma. And I think that's contributing to a lot of people just saying, hey, we're going to just pick evil, over real freedom and justice. And that's what you see. You see people just give in. People are so lost because they are surrounded by so much evil that they can't even see any light. And so where we're going as a country is a very dark place. It's a very dark place. So you do what you can to prepare for this. You probably can never prepare enough, okay? But I get so many emails and messages about the concerns for a civil war down the road, you would be shocked. And I personally don't think about it very much. I don't even want to think about it, but I know that it probably will be a reality someday. I hope it's not soon, for all of our sakes. But I would say, please, don't worry so much about that. Don't worry so much about that. That, to some degree, is out of our control, at least on an individual level. But what we can do as a group and individually is to spread the truth, not support these evil people and evil corporations and businesses and government, and to do the best that we can to repel them from our lives. And to be as independent as possible so that we don't have to partake in anything that they offer. We want to be outside of all that. So you guys take care. God bless. Catch you later.